Hey, everybody, welcome to the last star report of 2022. It is December the 28th, and that makes it a Wednesday. The star report is jam packed with good stuff for your new year. And let's start with the sun. The sun, if you've been feeling a little bit on edge over the last couple of days, has been flaring. Not really big flares, M flares, which are smaller than X class flares, have been erupting off of the sun, coming not necessarily direct hits towards Earth, but that energy, like we said, every time the sun does something, the electromagnetic connection it has with the Earth causes a trigger over here. So you've been feeling sort of on edge, a little bit of nervousness. And then the coronal hole streams that have been passing through have been going above the Earth, so shouldn't be getting any coronal hole streams either. So earthquake activity should be going down. There is one coming in which will probably hit us towards the end of this week, meaning closer to Tuesday. And so that energy, the sun, sort of coming back into prominence because in the northern hemisphere we just got done with the winter solstice and the Christmas, or December 25th, the returning of the sun, which means the sun comes back above the horizon line and becomes brighter. And so the more light is starting to pour in, so we can use that energy of the sun giving us guidance, attunement, activations more fully during this time. And with the sun in its activity picking up, that's going to be doubly stuff. So really that's going to undergird or empower the regular cosmos stuff that's happening, or the extra cosmos stuff that's happening, and make them more powerful. I hope your Christmas was beneficial with the energies that we talked about last week, which were really intense. So those are going to continue this week, probably till about Monday, I think. I'll hit that in the report, but those energies are coming to an end of that intensity. So anything that's going on and you're trying to get past it or trying to make resolution with it, difficulty with family and stuff like that, resolution should come towards the beginning of next month. So today, Mercury retrograde, December the 28th, starts today, and part of the planet, usually like these cosmic events happen, the galaxy, the solar system is large, so it takes about 24 to 48, maybe even 72 hours for these things to sort of layer in. So today and tomorrow begins Mercury retrograde, and Mercury retrograde is really about communication. Sometimes people look at the negative side of Mercury retrograde, where it's about communication becomes bumbled, don't sign contracts, technology starts to take a trip, right? Because we communicate through technology. That's why technology breaks. And then, of course, technology is about communication between electricity and nodes and all this fun stuff. So Mercury retrograde always causes a little bit of difficulty with that. But what it does, instead of being able to communicate it, what it does is send you inward when it's in retrograde. So today and tomorrow, it really sort of sends you inward to have knowing, right? And so instead of trying to communicate everything out loud or speaking your mind just as it comes, really the Mercury retrograde, which is about a 3-week period, is about going inward and starting to understand and know for yourself so that you can communicate that later. So that knowing, that knowing is really about getting in line your own thoughts, getting in line your own discoveries about yourself that it's been going on for these retrogrades that have been happening, all this intense energy, what's been happening with the solstice, the return of the sun at the 25th. And that knowingness is really I think the drive of the metaphysical life, the spiritual life, even the regular, how are we living? If you don't know yourself, then you don't know what's going on, because then once you know yourself, you can know why you're reacting to other people, why you're reacting to certain weather, right? And how you sort of fit in as a receiver of consciousness, of source energy from the sun. Once you know yourself, then you know how those things work, right? It's almost like figuring out a radio that only works for you. A lot of you who may be of a similar age to me, which is mid 40s, might have had technology or things that didn't work properly, and you need to explain that to people who weren't you, or you need to be around so that the things that worked kind of weird you could fix for them. It'd be a radio, a car, maybe unlocking a door that doesn't shut right at your house, that kind of stuff. And so this knowing is really figuring out what kind of device you are, and then how your soul, how your mind, how your spirit is interacting with that device. So Mercury retrograde is a great time to sort of fine tune that, maybe get some tinfoil and put it on your head so that that works a little better. Just jokes, maybe. And so that gets us to Friday. So yeah, Wednesday and Thursday is the beginning of Mercury retrograde, which is about 3 weeks. That gets into Friday, which is not necessarily significant in what's happening on Friday, but it's sort of pointing towards what's going to happen after this week, which this energy is building towards. And so Friday, we're halfway to the full moon. And so that sort of energy, it starts to come a little bit more intense towards us, right? So it's like we, just like beginning of retrogrades have shadows, like Mercury retrograde has a 2-week pre-shadow that we've been in. So does the full moon, it has a couple days. And so halfway to full moon, we're going to start feeling that full moon energy coming in. And then Saturday, oh, yeah. Saturday is the end of the year. Saturday is the 31st. And so the 31st with this Mercury retrograde is really what kind of knowing have you gained about yourself over 2022? And you can spend your day thinking about that. You can spend your day not thinking about that and doing your normal stuff and going and celebrating New Year's Eve out. But really the sort of contemplation of what's the point? What have I learned about me? What am I becoming? Right? That last week's report was really about what have you known about yourself? How can you maximize what you've decided about yourself and start to act on those things? So how are you becoming out loud these things? And so this last little bit of life review for the year is really sort of getting that stuff in line during Mercury retrograde. Because like I said, you don't want to necessarily during Mercury retrograde start new contracts or start the actual action of stuff, but you want to be prepared to do it. So you want to be in the preparing mode to act on these things. And so that's what's happening on Saturday, which leads us into Sunday, which is January 1st, 2023. Happy New Year, everybody. And so the first is a 1-1, right? So it's 1-1-23. It's not an 11 master day, but the 1-1 portal is called the dragon portal. And so when we sort of get to that dragon portal, that newness, that restart, that whatever, a lot of metaphysical belief systems believe that when the soul was born, metaphysically or what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, fantasy-wise, that the soul has with it a companion, which is sort of this dragon protector, which sometimes people can sort of understand as the Kundalini rising serpent, right? So that idea of a dragon or an energy which has scales on it, which helps you raise your inner fire, sort of as this thing. So this dragon portal, usually portals when we're having these 1-1, 2-2, or 12-12 things are lasting about 2 weeks, right? So this is going to lead us through the end of Mercury retrograde, not necessarily the post shadow, but so this portal is really going to give us a lot of self-knowledge. Who are we at our core? What were we here to created to be? Kind of energy, and that's going to be on Sunday, a nice calm day for most people. We are still on break from our breathwork class here, so you will be on your own for that, but there are plenty of breathwork resources that you might want to do, or if you've been to class already, you can start to do those kinds of breathing and pacings yourself. Basically, a balanced breath is really going to help. So that's 5 seconds, 6 seconds in, maybe hold at the top of the breath for 3 seconds. So 6 seconds in, 3 seconds hold, 6 seconds out, 3 seconds hold. That's really going to find you a center where you're going to be able to receive this information. Who are you as a source? And then sort of calm yourself down. It also probably will help your body re-regulate itself if you happen to have a party on Saturday night for celebrating the new year. So look for your breath to train you over the next couple of days. And that gets us into Monday, which is the end of all that Capricorn stellium stuff. So that intensity that was happening around the holidays, which is really sort of triggering you to sort of have difficulty around shifts in relationships and stuff like that we talked about last week. Go ahead and check the video on that. I'm missing all my notes of all the good stuff I said. And of course, repeating what you said already loses intensity. So go watch the video if you want to see what was going on last week. But that's sort of the end of all that energy. And then that leads us into Tuesday, which is an 11 master day, right? So then the math of the day actually gets you to a master day. So we're in this portal. We're in Mercury retrograde, having this self-knowledge, this discovery. We're getting that dragon energy. Who are we at our core? Who are we at the beginning of our soul existence? And we're really on Tuesday sort of having that master day. And so when we get to that master day, that sort of is a good sort of push to sort of look at the energies that we're sort of baking in as we sort of start. And so we got the Mercury retrograde, which we talk about as communication and self-knowledge. But we're also still in Mars retrograde, which is energy, right? So we can use the energy of Mars, energy, action, desire, right? We can use that energy to start to really focus ourselves on Tuesday. And then also Uranus, which is about self-discovery, innovation, technology, right? So what are you as a technological being of breath, of blood, of intention, of brainwaves, of heart? What kind of combination is that really to sort of manifest what's going on? Which leads us to that energy, which I said was coming, that I was going to get back to, which was this full moon, which is happening January 6th and 7th, right? And so the significance of that is sort of leads us into what's happening in 2023. What's 2023 going to be about? What kind of predictions does Jason and New Dimensions Crystals and Reiki have for you for 2023? And so the full moon is going to be a full moon in Cancer. And so Cancer is really about self-care. And so the year begins with a full moon in Cancer in Mercury retrograde. So this own knowledge about what it is to care for yourself, right? So when you discover who you are, then you know how to care for yourself. And that's always been sort of the key. And it's been the key over probably the last decade. You know, we get into love languages, the 4 agreements, and stuff like that. When you start to understand how you function, and of course, a lot of people go down to psychology, sort of stuff like that, you know, what's Myers-Briggs and all these other things, and even human design. What am I and how does my body work? And so when you look at all those things, this is sort of the energy that the full moon in Cancer is going to give us. And so it's really going to be also important. I don't have everybody's detail right here, but if you want to look at what house at your birth chart that Cancer was in, that's also going to be self-care in that sort of vein, right? So when you look that up, mine happens, my 6th house, my Cancer happens to be my 6th house, which is self-care, right? Or physical nurturing, right? So my year is probably going to be about physical upgrades, physical diets, different exercise routines, different meditation techniques, and then really sort of how does that maximize so that I can serve even more and become more myself. So those are kinds of things that you want to think about when you're looking at full moon in Cancer. And so the reason that that's important, because we have full moons all the time, is that 2023 begins and ends with a full moon in Cancer. And so that full moon in Cancer is really going to bookend our year. And so that's why I sort of said that whatever house Cancer is in is really what you're going to be nurturing for the year. And so when we get into the idea of nurturing and maybe even physical nurturing, sometimes we think that's being nice, being careful, being observant for people in your family. You know, you nurture them with love, understanding, but also it's a little bit like nutrition, right? So like at the end of the year or this entire year of 2022, when we were sort of having these economic expansion energies in the cosmos about we're going to get to the next level, we're going to be self-sustaining, we're going to start a business, we're going to have these new ideas, and the economy sort of crashed, sort of pay attention, and this is my hot take, sort of pay attention to the idea of food and the manipulation and or the just things happening in a public way of food. I won't call it shortages, but sort of food issues, right? Whether that be your favorite food, all of a sudden the factory goes away, or whether that be certain foods that have been a staple in your diet in the West, those are like tons of things. Maybe those aren't so good for you, right? So you've been trying to nurture yourself with things that are unnurturing or toxic for yourself. So look for a lot of information, news, and diversions around that to sort of hit during 2023. And sort of the same way, right? That I talked about last year. The thing to do when the narrative is against the cosmos and your inner knowing is to focus on your inner knowing and manage what you can, right? Whether that's, okay, I was eating the wrong thing, well, start eating the right thing. Oh, I was eating this and it's no longer available, eat something different. And then you'll also notice that if you become a focused on your own body and maximizing that, nurturing yourself, you'll realize that you don't need as much food and as much sustenance as you think. If you are drinking water and breathing correctly, your body will regulate itself. And then you'll sort of see this in fitness trends over the last year, probably over the last 2 years, definitely since 2020, that people have really been into periodic fasting, meaning eating once a day, eating less during that little window that you're eating. So these are all kinds of things that you can sort of pay attention to if the public narrative becomes negative around the food or the food that you're using to sort of nurture your own body. So 2023 is going to be the year of you. So pay attention to you and what you need. And then also pay attention that the narrative around that, the cosmos, the planet, the politics, the culture, might be antithetical to that and cause you to question, or also cause you to maybe think that you can't do the focus on you, and really sort of buckle down, focus, breathe, meditate, exercise your consciousness about you and become more you, and you'll be less affected or less likely to be affected by what's happening in the narrative. I hope that was informative for you. Like I said, the shop is not doing breathwork until probably second or third week of January. So pay attention to the website. We'll put that back up when you can sign up for the next class. And then, yeah, until next time, guys, many blessings.